The species account we're going to do tonight is a Sheridan's Hairstreak, Lofty Sheridan. This is a pretty amazing little butterfly. It's actually probably starting to hatch right now over in Nunnallee Coulee as an example, and probably in Spokane Canyon as well. It's one of our very earliest spring butterflies. That's one of our few green butterflies. We only have 3 species of green butterflies, and they're all closely related. This picture was taken in Nunnallee Coulee, which is over by Vantage, and this is its favorite nectar plant, which is Gray's Lomation, or Gray's Desert Parsley. The butterfly overwinters in the pupa. It's a fully developed pupa. Basically, it develops the adult butterfly inside the pupa before it overwinters. And so it's ready to pop out the very first thing in the spring when the weather, probably the first day you're going to have 60 degrees and a glimpse of the sun, it'll start hatching. It's a very hardy butterfly. Here's what the egg looks like in the wild. This is a leaf of the northern buckwheat area and compositum, and that's its host plant. And if you look carefully on these plants, you'll see these little leaves just coming out, and you can spot them occasionally. Occasionally you can spot a little egg. Here's a close-up of the egg, and kind of interwoven down in the hairs on the surface of the leaf. Pretty typical of Lycaenids. The group of butterflies, which includes the Hairstreak, coppers, and blues. It's like a slightly compressed or squished tennis ball with little surface articulations on it.
What's the little red beads?
Those are markings on the plant.
Okay.
And I don't really know just what they are. Part of the plant. Here's what the first instar looks like, and this is very small. It's only 2.2 millimeters long. And typical of first instars, it has proportionally very long setae or hairs sticking up from these little darkened woolly or raised spots on the back. And as it grows, the spines or hairs get proportionally shorter. And in Nunnallee Coulee, the larvae are pretty much green all the way through their growth. Second instar here, and you see how it's feeding on the leaf there, eating a little bit of the leaf. Here's a third instar. Third instar, they develop this nice lighter green stripe along the side. This is the head end up here, and the head actually is kind of retractable, that it'll be below the larva. It'll stick its head down and chew holes in the leaves, but you actually don't see the head itself unless you pick up the larva and turn it over. Some years ago, again, these are very early butterflies. They fly very early in the spring, in March, often in pretty awful weather, and they still manage to survive. They develop pretty quickly. The larvae develop in less than a month, so they're already in the pupa stage by probably early to mid-April. And so their life cycle is basically completed. From that point on, they're going to be sitting there in the pupa all through the rest of the summer, all through the winter, and then they're going to catch up in the next spring. But much later in the year, we're talking September, way up at high altitudes, like up on Chopstick Mountain in Chelan County, some years ago, we started finding these bizarre larvae with all these red spots, and they came in several flavors. Here's another version of the same thing, and they were on a different buckwheat. These were on the tall buckwheat, Ariaga and Relatum, feeding on the flowers, and we really couldn't figure out just what we were finding there. I showed a fellow who had quite a bit of expertise in larvae, and he said he didn't know what they were. And so we managed to rear a few through, and in the springtime, up pops a Sheridan's Hairstreak. And here's a more typical Sheridan's Hairstreak. This is down at a lower elevation, and again, this was the green form. And then they form these very typical pupae, very typical of Lycaenids, where they have the one end is swollen large and the other end and covered with short bristles. very typical. But what we found was that these larvae at higher elevations were feeding, like I say, on a different buckwheat, and they were not only that, they were feeding on the flowers of the buckwheat. The ones early in the season are feeding on the leaves because they're on the flowers yet. And there's not much in the way of color in leaves until the larvae are green. But on the tall buckwheat, much later in the season, up at high elevation, they're feeding on the flowers. Flowers have this very pigment, little dots of pigment in the flowers, and these larvae pick up those pigments, and so we're getting these very unusual color forms, which are same species, very same species. So here again is the adult, the Sheridan's Hairstreak, with a relatively continuous line. This one's kind of broken, but it's in a fairly straight line, as opposed to the look-alike, which can fly in the same areas. So Sheridan's Hairstreak. This is their preferred host plant, especially at lower elevations, the northern buckwheat. And the buckwheat comes in a couple of color flavors, the bright yellow or the almost, well, it's kind of a pale yellow point color. These are all the same thing. Often you'll see these very different colors growing right together, but they're exactly the same species. I don't know why such color difference, but that's the northern buckwheat. But up at high elevations, this is the flower, this is the buckwheat that they use, and this is a tall buckwheat, and they have these large basal leaves, and then these long gangly stems, and then the tiny little flowers have these, if you take a very close look at them, they have these bright pink little spots of color, and that's what the larvae feed on, and so they develop these interesting color forms. So that's all I have for the Sheridan's Hairstreak. Are there any questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
If you raised one of the ones that started out with a tall buckwheat mother and put an egg on a northern buckwheat, would it grow up looking like the lowland form that eats the northern buckwheat?
That's one of several thousand questions I don't know the answer to. That'd be a very interesting project to do, to find out if they would actually adjust. See, their timing is so different. They've developed a timing so that the adults are flying much later in the year, and the larvae eggs are hatching, the larvae are developing in September. Well, down in the lowlands are developing in March. So I don't know I don't know what would happen. It would be an interesting experiment.
Just that at first they looked so oddly different, then they're camouflaged on their host. And so, of course, they want to adapt to camouflage to their host, and maybe there could be some variability in their ability to camouflage to their host. I don't know, but it would be amazing if they could, but I wouldn't be shocked if they could.
My personal feeling, I think David James agrees with me, is that the larvae don't change colors to match their host. They change colors by feeding on the color pigment in the flowers. That pigment actually enters their body and gives them color.
But in the end, they've changed colors to match their host.
Yeah, but not, they can't do it on demand. They do it as a result of feeding on the pigment.
Then if you put the egg, move the egg from one to the other, or the parent somehow were able to transfer, it would seem from what you're saying that maybe they could look like the other kind if they were raised on the other host.
I would expect them to be green if they survive. Yeah.
The tall buckwheat one moved to the compositum, you expect to be green.
I would expect that, but I don't know. Al?
In doing your life histories book, did you find other larvae that were modified by what they were eating?
Oh yeah. There are several, especially some of the blues, which very much react to the pigments in the plants. If you look at things like the gray hairstreak larvae, I have a whole series of gray hairstreak larvae from different plants, and they're actually photographed on the plants, and you can match them up with the color of the plant. Here's one that's purple, and you see the flower it's on is purple pigment. Here's one that's green because it's feeding on the leaf of that plant, and it's extremely variable butterfly, and It just matches the plants it's on. But again, I don't think they can purposely, consciously match the colors. I think it's the result of what they feed on.
What is their range?
Sheridan's?
Yeah.
Oh, it has quite a wide range, certainly all over the western U.S. and on up into Canada. I should have looked at the range map. I'm not sure how far east it goes, certainly as far as like Colorado, but I'm not sure if it goes much further east than that.
Are there any sightings in western Washington?
Of Sheridan's? No, we have one of the other green hairstreaks, actually, that occurs near your cabin over there to William, but not the Sheridan's. Yes?
Did you say it occurs at Nunnallee Coulee?
Yes.
Anywhere else in Kittitas County that you know of?
Yes, we've seen a few of them up Reeser Creek Canyon, but they're not common up there. We've seen a few of them down in the lower part of Canyon Canyon, where the swinging bridge is across the Yakima River. A few in there. I've seen them further up Canyon Canyon, where the dirt road crosses, like you're going up to the microwave site. I've seen them up there. So yeah, they occur here and there, but I think the best population is in Nunnallee. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dave.